Hello and welcome to Studio 12. Our beliefs influence our thoughts, and those create our realities. So today we're going to talk about changing our limiting beliefs, also subconscious beliefs, as well as negative habits. Joining us is Chris Walton, a psychologist and creator of Gamma Healing Personal Change Program. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, to start with, in your experience, what are the most common areas for people to hold limiting beliefs so that they cannot reach their fullest potential?
Probably 3 or 4 main areas, I would say. Firstly, the most important one is our belief systems about self-esteem and confidence, that we are worthy and that we are good enough and that we deserve it. All the sort of self-esteem based beliefs, that's the sort of foundation of everything. Then on top of that, not necessarily in order, but the other ones that are the most important, of course, are our belief systems about relationships, not just romantic relationships, but business relationships and family relationships and friends. What we really believe about ourselves and our ability to have good relationships and enjoy relationships, particularly romantic relationships, because those are the sort of things that really push our buttons a little bit. And then, of course, a huge one, really important one, is our belief systems about our health and whether we believe deep down that our body, if we really believe and understand the healing abilities of our body and whether we can heal without going to see the doctor or without drugs, etc. So really understanding and believing in the power of the healing processes in the body. And then on top of that, there's beliefs around money, money and wealth, which of course is big for most people. These days we all would like more money, So those are the core areas, really. You've got your beliefs about self-esteem and confidence, your relationships, your health, and then money. Those are the sort of key ones. And then there's lots of different ones off that, Yeah.
And when we talk about changing them, why is it not enough to merely have some positive affirmations? I read in an interview that you once said that the process of manifestation, as described in the book The Secret, is good, but it only covers 1/4 of the story. So what's the rest of the story?
If that. Yeah. Well, the problem is that it's tricky for us to understand in a way, because when we look at what we think and how we feel every day, all the thoughts that pop into our mind and all the feelings that we have all the time, from happiness and joy to depression and worry and anxiety and everything in the middle, those feelings and those thoughts, they're not conscious. We don't consciously choose to feel angry or choose to feel sad. It just happens, it's autopilot. So that's coming from the subconscious programs. So positive thinking's great, but it's very weak, because we can think positively, but if deep down underneath the positivity, there's lots of conflicts and limiting beliefs and negativity and old emotional reactions, then that is happening much more than the little bit of positivity. So we can have an intention and we can, set a goal, but if underneath that, the majority of our mind is not in alignment with that goal or with that positivity, then that always wins, because the subconscious mind is a lot more powerful in processing information than the conscious mind. There's you need to get the two working together and not have a conflict. That's the key thing. So if you use the idea of the power of intention and the law of attraction and all these things, and you're not getting results, which is most people, if you actually ask them and they're honest and you're honest with yourself, you say, well, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and the most time it doesn't really. That's because what's going on for you most of the time is not in alignment with what you want, and that's the big thing.
How can we then tap into that subconscious beliefs that we have? How do we start? How to discover? Is it enough if we just ask ourselves honestly what we feel about our self-worth, about our relationship, about money?
In a way, yes. I mean, if you were really honest with yourself and you sit down and think, well, how do I feel on a day-to-day basis? Do I feel happy? Do I feel confident? Do I feel calm? Am I relaxed? Am I enjoying life? on a day-to-day basis, more than I feel worried and stressed and anxious, then your beliefs are probably supporting you. Do you feel confident doing something new or having a new idea and following it through, setting a goal and forming a plan to achieve it and following that plan and making it happen? If that's happening for you, then your beliefs are probably good. You're probably they're empowering beliefs. But if you just have to be honest with yourself and think, well, actually, a lot of the time I'm worried, or a lot of the time I'm nervous, or a lot of the time I'm anxious, these sort of things. And when I think about change, I'm not confident, then that tells you straight away that what's underneath those feelings, is a set of beliefs that are based in the past, old, outdated beliefs that are operating today. They're still operating in the brain, little packets of activity in the brain that can control the way that you perceive your environment and anybody. So that's the basic way of really thinking about, well, what do you believe? How's your life? Have a look at your life right now. What's your relationships like? How are you on a day-to-day basis? What's your level of joy and happiness and health? What's your money situation like? What's your career like? Have a look at that. And if you just look at that, that will tell you pretty much what your beliefs are. And then from there, you can do something about it. There are more specific ways to test when you actually come to doing processes and change work. There are more specific ways to test very specific beliefs. But in general, that's really the way to do it in a way,
A lot of people who teach changing beliefs say that it takes time because we've been affirming one type of belief or behavior for such a long time. It takes as long to get rid of it or to change it. What's your view of that?
Well, that's just old, outdated science. Of course, that's a belief in itself, The belief that I've had this belief all my life, I got it from my parents, I can't just change it like that. Why would that happen, Well, that's just a little bit of lack of understanding of when we think about beliefs. Well, what are beliefs? We have to ask ourselves, well, what do we actually mean? So if we can, I think of it in two ways. We can look at a belief as well. A belief's like basically a collection of thoughts that we think is true. We think is right. That's how it is, And at the same time, a belief is also a set of electrochemical patterns in the brain and the body. So you can change those patterns quickly if you know how. And when you start to change the way that the brain fires and the connections get together, if you like, then that creates a different set of chemistry in the body, and then with a different set of chemistry we feel different and we see the world differently. So it's like the metaphor, a good metaphor would be, you can have some software on your laptop, and you can put something on there that you can have a piece of software that's been on there, say, for a year, or 2 years or 3 years, and you can have a piece of software that you put on there yesterday. And you can open up your laptop and you can, using the right sort of instructions, the right keys, the right access codes, if you like, you can get into that software and you can delete the one that was there 3 years ago and you can delete the one that was there yesterday. All you're doing is you're using an access code to change the information in the computer so that what shows up on the screen is different. And that's very, very similar to what you're doing in the brain. When you start to repattern the brain, repattern the mind, that's pretty much what you're doing. You're creating different signals, you're changing signals so that what you see and how you feel is different. So in effect, with the latest understanding of the mind and body and consciousness and the power of consciousness, you can change those beliefs very, very quickly.
Great, so it's sort of a software update.
Exactly, yeah. It's a really accurate way of thinking about it.
So tell us a bit more about the research you've done on gamma waves, and to start with, what are gamma waves?
So as we're thinking and feeling and acting and living, our brain waves, the activity in the brain creates brain waves, and generally we have 4 types of brain waves in a 24-hour day and night. The beta wave, as it's called, which is like me now, I'm looking at you, I'm thinking, I'm alert, I'm awake, I'm focused, and then that's a certain frequency. Then when we relax a little bit and we get a little bit calmer and we enter those sort of brain slows down, we slow down, the body slows down, we move into the alpha waves, which is nice and relaxed. Then a little bit slower again is the theta wave, which is like, for most people, theta is like a light sleep. You're just nodding off a little bit. Or a deep meditation if you're very experienced, but most people it's a light sleep. And then the delta wave is the deep sleeps when we're completely asleep. So we'll go through those 4 waves in a 24-hour cycle, all the way through when we're asleep, awake. But there's an extra wave, which is called the gamma wave. Now the gamma wave is very unique. Most people don't produce gamma waves, or you can hardly see them. Gamma waves, when they are activated, it means more of your brain cells fire at the same time. So what that does, when more brain cells fire at the same time, it means you've got more brain power. And that creates then a super focused mind. So then you become much more aware, much more awake, much more, the body, the heart, the brain, the mind, everything becomes coherent and works as one. So it's much more efficient. So what I've done is I've done 2 small research studies where I've measured people's brain waves as they're doing the technique that I teach to see what happens in the brain. Now when I first did this, I didn't expect to see gamma waves at all. I just thought you would see lots of alpha waves because you're relaxed and some theta waves because you're deeply relaxed. So that's what I thought you would see. Well, you do see a lot of theta, deep relaxation, almost light sleep. You see alpha, but on top of that, leading the brain, you see these gamma waves. So this is very, very exciting because this is a really peak state. This is a perfect state to change the internal programs of the mind and the brain. It's the best state because when the gamma waves fire, remember, more of your brain cells fire at the same time. And it's like a conductor with an orchestra. If you hear the orchestra warming up, it sounds terrible. You've got the wind section and the percussion section and the brass section, and they're all warming up and it sounds terrible. But when the conductor comes along and taps his stick, everything comes together in this really wonderful symphony, and that's much like the gamma waves. They lead the brain. So if you can activate the gamma waves on a daily basis, you can really change in a big way. You can make some profound changes because that changes everything that's going on in the body, and it's a very unique state.
So once people learn this technique and they come into this gamma state, how does this relate to changing their beliefs? I mean, is it something that you do daily and, I don't know, take one belief about money and then you work on it and then after a while it changes, or?
So there's a couple of ways to approach it, but generally speaking, when you were able to activate the gamma state on a daily basis, several things will happen. Firstly, you'll think differently because what you're doing is, and this is a key point, you're like retraining the brain so that the emotional brain, deep inside the emotional brain, the fight-flight system, the stress system, that gets retrained, it gets turned down. It's like turning the volume down so that you're less reactive, you don't react so much. And it activates the frontal areas of the brain here, right behind the eyebrows, these frontal lobes, which are the most evolved part of the brain. The more activation we have here, the happier we are, the more ideas we have, the clearer we think, the more focused we are, the better we can concentrate, we see different opportunities, we communicate differently, because we're activating this, and that emotional brain is turned down, it's quiet, so we're less reactive, So when you're able to do that, you can then, using a specific process, so it's a process that you do, it's a simple process, but it gets you into that gamma state. You can then either decide, you can look at a list of beliefs, it could be on money, as you said, and think, well, let's work on these beliefs, let's use the technique, and for a period of days, let's integrate these into my mind. Thinking again, it's like going back to your computer and you're inputting new software. It's the same principle. So you're inputting this new information into your mind. Now, that can take 60 seconds and it's done, or you can work on it over a period of days. Not necessarily just one belief, but a range of beliefs around the same subject. So the subject could be money, or it could be self-esteem, or it could be relationships or romantic relationships. You work on that, and ideally, the idea really would be that you would set yourself, like what I always say is you do a 30-day process. So you do a 30-day process every day of working through, and it doesn't take long, and then you want to also consciously think about that belief. So you are doing the subconscious work by doing the technique and activating the gamma state, getting this information into the subconscious system and start to retrain the brain. At the same time, you want to consciously think about it. You want to look at that belief and think, well, what does that mean to me? Something simple like money. We could keep it simple, I deserve to be financially independent, which most people would want to be financially independent. Most people are not, but most people would like it. So you could look at that statement, you could consciously think, well, what does that mean to me? What have I got to do to make this happen? So you get the conscious mind and the subconscious mind working together, but you've got to put it into the subconscious system. Otherwise, if you've still got old patterns about money, old things from family and environment and stuff, then that's still going to keep coming up, and it's, without changing the software, that's not going to help you. Consciously, it's not going to help you. But if you change the software as well as thinking about it consciously and really use your mind together, then that's when there's a lot of power.
Oh, sounds great. And how long does it take for one to learn the technique?
Well, minutes really. I mean, the technique, it's not difficult. The technique's simple. The reason it works is quite scientific. Underneath the technique, the science why it works is very clear. But to actually do the technique, it's very simple. It's really three steps, 1, 2, 3. So you can learn it in sort of 5 minutes. Practice it a few times, a little bit of skill to practice it. But it's easy to do. But you can learn it in 5 minutes. And then the more you do it, it's a little bit like when you first like to ride a bike, You wobble a little bit, but soon, once you've got your balance, you know how to do it. It's like, oh, yeah, I've got it. And the more you do it, the quicker it happens. Because your brain, of course, learns very, very quickly. And the brain and body together, working together, even quicker, So, you can learn it in 5 minutes. The more you do it, the quicker it happens, and the quicker the changes happen, the more your brain gets used to. It's like, it's like learning how to open your computer. The first time you do it, you're like, well, it's, okay, is it on, and then it's enter, and then it's password. But, after a few times, you could do that with your eyes closed, so it's the same principle.
Would you be open to sharing just a bit, sort of an introduction or something of the technique for our audience?
Sure. So the first thing, as I said, there's 3 steps to it. So the first step is a simple relaxation protocol. So I'll explain that in a minute. The second step is a posture. And the posture is what's called the whole brain posture, which simply makes the right hemisphere of the brain and the left hemisphere of the brain talk to each other, send signals to each other. And that is very, very important. And then the third part, which is the most important part, is what's called activating the heart field, the electromagnetic field of the heart, which sounds a bit technical and sciencey, but the way you do it's very, very simple. So it's important to know that the heart and the brain are sending signals to each other all the time. All the organs, of course, are sending signals to the brain, and the brain is sending signals to the organs to keep us alive and healthy and balanced. But the heart's unique. The heart, in the right state, can send signals to these frontal lobes here to activate these frontal lobes. So we do 3 things. We do a relaxation, which is relaxing the head. You basically close your eyes, you relax your head, you relax your forehead, your eyes, your temples, take the stress out the jaw, and you just focus on relaxing for 20, 30 seconds. The second thing is this whole brain posture. So what you do with that, you'll cross your ankles over, you put one ankle over the other, it doesn't matter which way, and you also cross the wrists. So you'd either put the left wrist over the right or the right wrist over the left, and then you'd turn your palms together, integrate, and you roll round into this position. So this is then called, I've done the first bit, so I'm relaxed, I've got my eyes closed, and I'm in this position, just a light grip here. So what this is doing, the upper body, I'm crossing the right and I'm crossing the left. And I'm also doing the same with the lower body, I'm crossing. So that makes sure that the right hemisphere is sending signals to the left and the left is sending signals to the right. So that's all it does, simple. And then you close your eyes. So you relax. And that's very nice because it takes your brainwaves quickly go into the alpha state to start off with, which is that relaxed state. And then you have to activate your heart field, which is done by thinking of a heart-based emotion. So when we have a heart-based emotion like love, kindness, caring, appreciation, gratitude, heart-based emotions, things that soften you a little bit, when you think of something in your life that creates that. So I always think of my little dog. I had a little spaniel dog. So I think of that when I was a boy. So when I think of that dog, it automatically opens my heart and softens me. So I think, and I think, yeah. And all you do is allow that feeling to just go into the body. And you make it as sort of strong as you can whilst you relax, whilst your eyes closed, whilst you're here. Now, when you put those three together, relaxation, whole brain posture, and the heart activation, if you do it correctly, particularly the heart activation, you can't be thinking of going to the shop or, it's a heart-based emotion. Then what you'll see on the graph, and I've shown this in 2 different studies, when you're measuring the brain waves, the brain goes nice and relaxed. It goes relax, 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 relax. And then when you activate the heart, boom, you get this really strong wave, this gamma wave activation in the brain that then starts to lead the brain. You can see that actually on my website. You can see the brain activation. You can see the video of it happening. So you do those 3 together, and within about 60 seconds, within a minute, that's when you start to activate this gamma state. And it's a perfect state then. You find you're in the most coherent mind, body, brain state, receptive state to put in new software, if you like, new beliefs, new information into your body. So, it's simple, but why it works underneath is very scientific.
And it's that fast. It's 60 seconds or less.
Yeah, 60 seconds, and then you stay in that state for sort of as long as you can. Well, not as long as you can, but, it's sort of like the whole process is like 5 minutes. Really, from start to finish, it's like 5 minutes. But within about 60 seconds, I know that because I can see that. I'm not just hoping it happens. You can see it on the EEG reading of the brain. Within about 60 seconds, you see the gamma wave when you activate the heart. But you have to activate the heart feeling whilst everything else is happening. If you don't activate the heart feeling, you only get alpha waves, which is good. It's just nice. It's relaxing, but it's not as powerful.
Okay, so. Apart from being able to change our subconscious beliefs when we're in this state, what are other benefits of being in this state or using this technique?
So you can use what's called the gamma brain technique. You can use it for 4 things. The first thing is, as you've said, to change those subconscious beliefs, to bring in new software into the brain and the body. The second thing is to create a really high, increased state of focus and awareness. Concentration, focus, awareness. So say you've got a meeting to go to or a presentation to do or, some conversation that you want to be really, really on it. Then you could do this technique for 60 seconds, 2 minutes, just get yourself in the perfect state, removes all the stress, turns the emotional brain down, activates your higher centers of the brain, and then you just come out of that and just walk straight into your meeting or your presentation or your conversation, and you're in a peak state. Your brain's in a peak state, so that's going to be then the best you. You'll communicate the best and so forth, So that's the second way. The third way is to find solutions to your problems. So this is a specific way of using it. The actual technique's the same, but this time you have an intention. So you go into the technique with an intention. And the intention might be say, okay, I now intend to find a solution, the best way forward for me in this situation. It might be something going on at work or something with your partner or something with your children or a business idea or something, that there's a problem and you need to find some solution to it. Now, often you are putting your brain into this peak state, so often you can get ideas straight away. But a lot of the times what will happen, it's like you're getting into the peak state, you're telling your brain, your mind, your body, okay, I need some help. I need to find out what's the best way forward. And that's sort of like some sort of like creative process. And very often what will happen, you'll stay in that process for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes max, and then you'll stop, you'll come out, and you'll be walking along and you'll totally forgot about it, and then something will pop into your mind about, oh yeah, of course, and you'll have the solution, you'll have an idea. Because again, you can think of this in 2 ways, You can think, well, I'm putting my brain into a peak state. That's the best thing you can do to function, putting my brain into a peak state. But at the same time, if you want to think of it with a slightly more, say, metaphysical angle, you're then sending out different signals into the field, whatever you want to call that, the quantum field or the universe, whatever you want to call it. You're sending out different signals, and then you're receiving different signals. You're sort of sending it and receiving it. So that's at a different level. You can get information from the field. That's where all the information is. So that's the third way. And then the fourth way is a simple rest and renewal meditation. There's actually a fourth and a fifth way, but they're both meditations. One is a rest and renewal meditation. So that'd be like ideally mid-afternoon, when we get that sort of bit tiredness, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the body slows down a little bit because it wants to rest. That's the time when you could just get into the state, activate the gamma state, and just relax and just stay there for 5-10 minutes. And that puts your body into a deep healing response. A really deep, profound healing response is activated. And you can just relax into that, then come out and you're a little bit more refreshed. Also, I have some what's called gamma meditations, which are very specific meditations. There are 12 meditations that are guided meditations with specific frequencies, but you also get into that state and then you follow along, So there are 4 and 5 key ways to use it, which are very practical, useful ways. And the key thing is, it doesn't take long. That's one of the beauties of it, it doesn't take long.
That's great, because in life we are often guided, a lot of people are often guided by their impulses and momentarily feelings or emotions. So can we say that this is sort of taking the remote control and giving it to the brain? Yeah,
it is, because as we said, you're absolutely right. And as we said, most of those emotions and impulses, you're not choosing them. You're not consciously choosing to have that reaction. It's there. It's a feeling. It's an anger. It's a reaction. You don't choose that. It just happens. So that's just your autopilot programs from the way you perceive the environment, creating that reaction in the body. So when you take that remote control back and reprogram the software, then you don't have those reactions. You have different reactions. And when you have that for the first time and you realize, actually, wow, I am in control. I can control my inner world, and that has a massive impact then, of course, on the outer world. And that's a very nice place to be.
And those changes that we make to our brain, actually, we sort of restructure our brain. Are those lasting changes?
They are lasting changes if you do. We all want the quick fix today. Everybody wants the quick fix. We want things fast. And we can change fast. But it's not like you're going to do 5 minutes of work and your whole life's going to change. We've still got to do the work. We've still got to do the processes. So that's why I recommend 30 days, because when you do something 30 days, a whole month, that's a lot of change. That's consistently changing the way that your brain's activated. That's consistently turning the volume down on your emotional brain, slowing it down, retraining it, and consistently training this, activating this. So it's just sort of like going to the gym in a way. So those changes, it's like, again, I can put some software on my computer and then I can load it up, I can switch the computer off, I can turn it down, and then I can open the computer 2 weeks later. The software's still there, the program's still there, but the idea of having new programs, new beliefs, new software is so that we take different actions, we feel different, and then we see new opportunities, we have new ideas, and then we do new things that we weren't doing before. So we strengthen the beliefs by taking action, not just sitting around and hoping the universe will make us millionaires or whatever. We take action because we've got the new software. Like if you put new software on your computer, you can do new things.
Okay, so the first thing is to change our beliefs, and then we still need to set the goals and actually do something.
Yeah, the key thing is making sure that what's going on subconsciously, all the information, all the software that you've got subconsciously is in alignment with the goal. If it's in alignment with the goal, then you get in the flow, then you feel like doing it, then you want to do it, then you have the ideas. If there's a conflict, you set that goal, but your subconscious beliefs and reactions, your subconscious software is not in alignment with that, then that's a stress response. We have stress in the body and that shuts down, the emotional brain fires up, we have the fight, flight, stress, and we don't think as clearly and we do the same old thing again. We keep doing the same patterns. So we really need to change the brain, set the goal, and just make sure that we are aligned with that goal, that all of us is ready to do that goal.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much for sharing all this knowledge and for visiting our show.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we wish for you to have a really honest look at your lives and to find those limiting beliefs that you have and do something about them. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.